The darkness of interstellar space was broken by nothing. No fleets, no signals, no whispers of life beyond the occasional flicker of a distant sun. For centuries, humanity had been assumed extinct, erased by alien dominions, scattered by cosmic calamities, or buried in legends told by survivors of worlds long forgotten. But in the outer rim, beyond the mapped territories of every empire, something impossible stirred. A Terran vessel, immense yet sleek, drifted like a shadow that remembered how to move. Its hull shimmered with alloys unknown, polished to mirror the light of stars that had never seen humans in centuries. No engines burned in visible blaze. Instead, the ship resonated. Deep vibrations threading the void like the pulse of a living heartbeat. It was a relic, yes, but alive, intelligent, patient, waiting for the moment to awaken. Inside, the command chamber glowed faintly with holographic maps of star systems long lost to conquest. Ancient codes blinked into life, sequences written by hands that no longer existed, yet executed perfectly, guiding sensors, weapons, and engines as if the ship itself remembered every battle humanity had fought and lost. It was built not merely to survive, but to return as an answer the galaxy would never forget. The surrounding emptiness held a deceptive calm. A Valkyr Dominion dreadnought swept nearby, 3 kilometers of lethal engineering, bristling with weapons capable of erasing planets. Its sensors, fine-tuned for the slightest anomaly, detected nothing unusual, nothing alive within the silent vacuum. It moved with arrogance, confident that humanity was gone, its fleets vanished, its ingenuity extinguished. It was about to discover that belief was a grave mistake. Within the Terran vessel, dormant systems stirred, hums cascading into full resonance. Power coursed through conduits untouched for centuries. Shields realigned themselves, weapons arrays shifted from storage to readiness, engines whispered in patterns designed to harmonize with the void itself. And at the heart of it all, a human presence, a survivor. An architect of the resurgence, stepped forward, eyes reflecting the holographic brilliance of countless systems, hands poised not in hesitation, but in command. The ship's cloaking veil, designed to fool even the most advanced sensors, began to fracture under its own resonance. The hull's reflective surface shimmered, a ghost emerging from the dark. The dreadnought's instruments flickered, briefly disturbed by a disturbance it could not interpret. By the time its crew realized the anomaly, the Terran ship had already chosen its position, poised for the moment the galaxy would finally awaken to the truth. For centuries, humans had been presumed broken. But the warship spoke a different truth: endurance, intelligence, and patience could forge weapons far deadlier than brute force. The moment of reckoning was at hand, and when the Terran warship uncloaked fully, the galaxy would remember that silence was never surrender. The dreadnought sensors pulsed, scanning the darkness with precision honed over centuries. Its crew, trained to anticipate the faintest irregularity, paused only briefly, their confidence intact. Nothing in their calculations could have prepared them for what was about to unfold. The Terran warship, uncloaked yet seemingly motionless, hung in the void like a predator aware of every angle of attack, every vulnerability in its foe. Its surface reflected nebulae in shimmering hues of violet and cobalt. Fractures of light bending around angular armor as though space itself bowed before it. Inside, the command chamber was a symphony of precision and memory. Holographic maps rotated slowly, star systems highlighted and coded with information collected over centuries. Every faint trace of enemy movement, every supply route, every patrol pattern known or suspected was logged, analyzed, and projected. The human at the helm moved with a calm that defied the immensity of the task, fingers tracing lines of light across a hollow table, orchestrating strategy with centuries of tactical intuition embedded in their every motion. Outside, the dreadnought advanced, engines flaring with deliberate menace. Its weapons arrays, capable of pulverizing worlds, tracked the Terran ship with unwavering focus. The gap between predator and prey narrowed, yet the Terran warship did not flee. Its systems hummed with readiness, energy coiling along conduits, armor shimmering as if alive. It was a vessel built not for fear, but for patience, for timing, for perfection. Then, with almost imperceptible subtlety, the Terran ship initiated its first strike. A pulse, not of destruction, but of disruption, rippled across the void. Sensors aboard the dreadnought flickered violently, a brief cascade of static and confusion. Systems recalibrated, shields faltered, weapons momentarily stalled, and in the bridge. Officers stared at blinking consoles with disbelief. They had expected ghosts, nothing more. They had not expected the ghost to awaken with intent. The pulse spread, threading through energy conduits, bending the laws of physics in ways that seemed almost alive. It was surgical, deliberate, and precise. The dreadnought staggered under the invisible strike, hull trembling as energy was rerouted, critical systems faltering. Alarm klaxons shrieked, red lights bathing the bridge as the crew struggled to comprehend a reality their calculations could not contain. The Terran warship remained calm, drifting closer, each movement deliberate, almost taunting. Its weapons were not yet deployed in full. Its engines not yet flaring with final power. It did not need to. Every calculation, every pulse, every subtle manipulation of the void itself served as a reminder. Humans were patient, humans were cunning, and humans never forgot. In the ship's core, systems once dormant surged to life. Energy lances, dormant for centuries, powered up in harmonic resonance, weaving a lattice of defensive and offensive capability across the vessel. Panels shimmered, revealing technological wonders designed not to intimidate, but to survive the unthinkable. And at the command dais, the human adjusted parameters with deliberate care, orchestrating the awakening like a conductor leading a symphony of destruction and precision. The dreadnought reacted, finally launching its first volleys. Massive energy beams tore through the darkness, bending the light of distant stars, forcing the Terran ship to divert power to shields. The pulses struck, reverberating across armored plates, yet the ship endured, bending with the energy instead of breaking. For the first time, the crew of the dreadnought understood. They were not dealing with a vessel, they were dealing with a species that had learned to fight the universe itself. And then the Terran ship struck with its second pulse. It was no longer subtle. The energy flared, precise, devastating. Weapon banks sputtered, propulsion arrays faltered, and the dreadnought shuddered under the invisible pressure. Yet the human did not gloat. There was no triumph, only purpose. The strike was a message: underestimate humanity, and the consequences would be total. Across the galaxy, in distant observation points, signals flickered. For the first time in centuries, the name Terran resonated in encrypted channels, whispered in panic across alien command centers. The species they had assumed extinct was not only alive, but fully aware, fully prepared, and impossibly patient. The Terran warship drifted closer still, its engines humming like a heartbeat in the void. The dreadnought's weapons were online again, yet faltering, and its crew realized with growing horror that the warship before them was no ordinary vessel. Every pulse, every maneuver, every measured response had been calculated over generations of observation, centuries of exile, and decades of preparation. Humanity had returned, and it had returned to remind the galaxy of a truth long forgotten. Silence was not surrender, absence was not weakness, and patience was the deadliest weapon of all. The dreadnought trembled as the second pulse from the Terran warship lanced across its hull. It was not a strike of brute force, but a precise unraveling of control. Weapons banks, engineered to annihilate continents, short-circuited in a cascade of sparks. Engines sputtered, oscillating in violent rhythms, while navigation arrays flickered with ghostly errors. The crew struggled to maintain composure, but the sequence was beyond comprehension. This was not a ship acting, this was a species executing strategy across centuries. Inside the Terran warship, systems whispered to each other as though alive. Energy conduits adjusted their flow, shields resonated in harmonic patterns, and dormant weapon arrays unfolded from armored recesses like blades drawn from centuries of waiting. Every mechanism, every protocol, was calibrated for one purpose: to survive, to endure, to dominate without arrogance, and to remind the galaxy what it had forgotten. The human at the command dais did not speak. There was no need. Their presence, calm yet commanding. orchestrated a symphony of technological precision. Fingers glided over the hollow interface, adjusting resonance frequencies, redirecting power to vulnerable points, opening and closing attack sequences in real time. They were a conductor, and the universe itself was the orchestra. The dreadnought's captain barked orders, a desperate attempt to reclaim control. Turrets swung, beams flared, shields recharged. But the Terran warship anticipated every move, calculating angles of approach, projecting vectors centuries ahead, predicting responses before they could be executed. Every action the dreadnought took played into a trap meticulously designed long before it had even appeared on sensors. Then came the first visible strike. Energy lances, drawn from the ship's core and stabilized across its hull, fired with brutal precision. They did not scatter or indiscriminately blast. Instead, they struck critical junctions, disabling propulsion arrays, rupturing shields, and severing power conduits. Sparks and arcs of energy danced along the alien vessel's hull, lighting the void with fractured brilliance. The dreadnought quaked, massive and terrifying, yet it began to falter under the surgical efficiency of human strategy. The Terran ship advanced, moving not like a fleeing target but like a predator circling its prey. It glided through gravitational eddies and debris fields. Engines whispering rather than roaring, every adjustment flawless. Holographic overlays of enemy fleet formations and weak points projected across the command chamber, transforming the void into a map of opportunity and inevitability. Within moments, the dreadnought's weapon banks failed completely. Massive energy cannons locked up, their systems unstable, and fire control arrays collapsed under precise electromagnetic interference. The crew's panic was palpable, red alarms painting every surface, yet the Terran ship remained silent, composed, almost serene in its execution. It was not chaos that it delivered, but inevitability, and then the human commanded the third pulse. It was swift, decisive, undeniable. A burst of energy lanced across the dreadnought's command tower, severing connections, frying sensors, and forcing the bridge into lockdown. In one silent instant, a vessel meant to embody terror across the stars had become little more than drifting debris. The Terran warship paused, engines humming softly. Its shields shimmered, panels realigned, and internal systems adjusted for the next engagement. Outside, the debris of the fallen dreadnought drifted through starlight, catching the colors of distant nebulae, a testament to the cost of underestimating humanity. Across the galaxy, communication relays flickered. In command centers far removed from this sector, encrypted channels erupted with fragments of reports. Terran vessel active. Cloaking. Engagement impossible. Terran. The whispers of fear spread faster than fleets could respond, carried by the currents of light across hundreds of systems. The species they had assumed dead was alive, strategic, and more dangerous than any calculations had ever predicted. The Terran warship did not pursue destruction blindly. It moved with intent, liberating supply lines, rerouting energy flows, and preparing for engagements yet to come. Each maneuver was a lesson, each strike a declaration. Humanity had not returned merely to survive. Humanity had returned to reclaim its place among the stars. To remind every empire and every conqueror that intelligence, patience, and pride were weapons as lethal as any cannon. And as the vessel drifted past the last remnants of the dreadnought, engines whispering through the void, the humans stood at the command dais, eyes reflecting the fractured light of distant suns. Silence filled the chamber, not as emptiness, but as anticipation, the quiet before the galaxy understood what it had lost, and what it had awoken. The Terran warship had proven one truth: underestimate humanity, and even the most fearsome empires would crumble under the weight of centuries of preparation, ingenuity, and unyielding resolve. The void seemed to stretch forever. Yet in that emptiness, the Terran warship moved with absolute purpose. Stars reflected off its angular hull, bending light in colors that no human eye had seen for centuries. Debris from the shattered dreadnought trailed behind, glimmering like a ghostly constellation, a testament to what happens when the galaxy misjudges the cleverness of humanity. Inside, the command chamber hummed softly, alive with energy. Holographic star charts flickered with points of interest, alien patrols, supply networks, hidden colonies, and every pulse, every adjustment, every subtle shift of energy was a calculation spanning centuries. The human aboard the ship moved with quiet precision, touching projections that recalibrated systems in real time. Anticipating movements, intercepting probabilities before they became threats. There was no panic, no hesitation, only the calm, lethal focus of one species that had endured near annihilation and emerged sharper for it. Beyond the viewport, a fleet began to respond. Valkyr cruisers, frigates, and destroyers converged like waves, engines blazing, weapons primed to annihilate what they still called an anomaly. Their formations were perfect on paper, designed to overwhelm, yet they moved into the shadow of centuries of human strategy without realizing it. The Terran warship did not flee. It glided among the gravitational currents of a nearby nebula, its engines whispering through eddies of dust and radiation. Exploiting the tiniest vulnerabilities with surgical precision, then came the first strike, quiet yet devastating. Micropulses of energy ran along enemy conduits, shorting navigation arrays, freezing turrets mid-spin, and leaving ships adrift with engines sputtering and shields faltering. The Valkyr fleets adjusted too late, scrambling to reorganize as the Terran ship moved closer, a predator unconcerned with distance. Every pulse was precise, calculated to weaken without wasting force, each strike demonstrating a mastery the galaxy had long forgotten. The human aboard did not watch the destruction with glee. Their eyes traced the shifting positions of ships across the void, reading data. Predicting maneuvers, orchestrating every system with the calm of a commander who had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. They understood what every alien empire had forgotten: humanity did not simply react to threats. Humanity anticipated them, adapted to them, and used every apparent weakness in the universe as a weapon. A sudden silence fell across the battlefield as the Terran ship paused near a shattered moon, engines barely whispering, shields shimmering in ghostly blue-white. The Valkyr fleet hesitated, sensing something they could not identify, an intelligence beyond prediction, a presence that defied their centuries of dominance. And then, without warning, the Terran warship unleashed the next wave. Energy tendrils danced along the hull of the enemy ships, twisting through shields, disrupting weapon banks, and causing propulsion systems to fail. Ships collided with one another in confusion, creating chains of destruction that spread through the formation like wildfire. The void itself seemed to tremble under the precision of humanity's strike. Every move was a lesson, every pulse a declaration. The galaxy had assumed humans were gone, yet here they were, not just surviving, but shaping the battlefield with intelligence, patience, and pride. Colonies long thought conquered began to sense hope again, as communication relays picked up faint signals from Terran operatives, coordinating supply lines and defensive measures with near-legendary efficiency. The Terran ship did not linger. It advanced, gliding past the debris and broken vessels, engines whispering as it readied for the next phase of engagement. Each maneuver demonstrated mastery not only of technology, but of strategy, instinct, and willpower. The galaxy had believed it could contain humans with fleets and fortresses. Humanity had returned to remind them that intellect, endurance, and defiance were far deadlier than numbers or brute force. Inside, the humans stepped back from the command dais, eyes reflecting the swirling nebulae outside. For centuries, humans had been forced into the shadows, scattered among the stars, underestimated and forgotten. Now, every pulse of energy, every calculated strike, every subtle movement across the void declared a single, undeniable truth: humanity had awoken, and the galaxy would never again forget. The Terran warship drifted through the wreckage, silent but resolute, a living monument to patience, intelligence, and the unyielding will of a species that refused to bow. Across the void, distant empires began to comprehend the scope of their miscalculation. And the galaxy would soon learn, in the days and light years to come, that humans had returned not merely to exist, but to reclaim their place among the stars. The galaxy stirred. Signals flashed across systems, carrying fragments of rumors, fragments of fear. A Terran warship, uncloaked, moving like a shadow yet striking like a storm. Fleets that had slept for centuries now scrambled, their sensors hunting a ghost that defied expectation. Commanders barked orders, officers recalculated maneuvers, yet every response seemed already anticipated. Humanity had returned, and it had returned with patience honed over generations. The Terran warship advanced, gliding past shattered moons and drifting debris. Nebulae painted the void in violent hues of crimson and sapphire, but the ship moved as if the colors themselves were mere reflections of its intent. Energy conduits pulsed along the hull, shields shimmered with harmonic precision, and weapons arrays shifted in silent readiness. This was a machine designed for survival, yes, but more than that, it was a vessel of strategy, intelligence, and pride. A fleet emerged on the horizon, Valkyr dreadnoughts, cruisers, and frigates converging with brutal confidence. Their formation was flawless on paper, engines blazing, weapons locked and primed. They intended to annihilate the anomaly before it could disrupt more than a single sector. Yet the Terran ship did not flinch. It had studied, waited, and anticipated every movement, every calculation, every error in judgment. What the galaxy had considered a lone ship was in truth a culmination of centuries of thought, survival, and cunning. The first strike was near invisible. A subtle pulse raced along enemy hulls, freezing navigation systems, shorting weapon banks, and leaving ships adrift as if the laws of physics themselves had betrayed them. Chaos erupted silently. The fleet commander's confidence cracked, replaced by panic as orders failed to execute. The Terran vessel drifted like a ghost among them, its movements fluid, deliberate, and untouchable. Microdrones, small yet lethal, swarmed the fleet next. They slipped into vents and conduits, sabotaging energy systems, redirecting power, and sowing confusion in the heart of the formation. Each maneuver exploited centuries of observation and tactical foresight. Ships designed to command terror now floated helpless. Their power drained by a species they had presumed extinct, the human at the command dais remained calm. There was no triumph in their eyes, only focus. Every pulse, every adjustment, every deployment of energy or technology was orchestrated with the precision of a species that had endured near annihilation and emerged stronger for it. Humanity did not fight recklessly. Humanity outthought, outmaneuvered, and outlasted. The Valkyr fleet attempted to reorganize, converging into tighter formations, unleashing volleys of destructive energy. Massive beams tore through the void, illuminating nebulae in blinding flares. Yet the Terran warship absorbed, redirected, and countered with surgical precision. Shields harmonized with the attacks, energy deflected, systems adapted, and strikes were returned where they hurt most. For every cannon fired, a weakness was exploited, a flaw revealed, a lesson enforced. As hours stretched into tense cycles of battle, the Terran ship moved like liquid through the formation, untouchable yet always present, striking with calculated force where it mattered most. Entire squadrons faltered, dreadnoughts stalled, cruisers collided in confusion. The galaxy had assumed numbers were power. Humanity demonstrated that intellect, patience, and will could turn overwhelming odds into inevitability. Among the chaos, distant colonies detected faint signals, encrypted and rapid. Supply lines rerouted, defensive systems reactivated, hope rekindled where despair had long reigned. Humanity's presence was no longer a threat, it was a signal. The species that had endured centuries of exile was reclaiming its place, not with fury alone, but with intelligence and strategy unmatched. Finally, after relentless precision strikes and maneuvers, the remaining Valkyr vessels faltered. Engines burned out, weapon banks collapsed, and the surviving dreadnoughts drifted, helpless against the relentless human orchestration. The Terran warship paused amidst the wreckage, a silent sentinel of inevitability. It did not celebrate. It did not gloat. It simply endured, reflecting the nebulae across its armored hull and waiting. The galaxy began to understand what centuries of absence had hidden. Humanity was not merely alive. Humanity was aware. Humanity was unstoppable when it chose to awaken. The human at the command dais gazed across the void, quiet yet resolute. Every battle fought, every system mastered, every victory won in this silent war was a testament to one undeniable truth: the galaxy had assumed humans were gone, but they had only been waiting. Waiting to rise, to reclaim, to remind every empire of a lesson long forgotten: underestimate humanity, and the consequences are absolute. The Terran warship drifted forward, engines whispering through the void, ready for the next challenge, ready to awaken the rest of the galaxy to the power of a species that refused to bow. The void stretched endlessly, yet it was no longer empty. Across light years, signals of humanity's resurgence pulsed through communication relays, whispered through encrypted channels, carried in the tremors of fleets that had believed themselves untouchable. Systems that had long cowered under alien dominion now stirred, awakening to a presence they had presumed extinct. Humanity was back, and the galaxy was trembling. The Terran warship glided through the wreckage of defeated fleets, its hull catching the light of distant nebulae in shards of violet, crimson, and sapphire. Engines hummed with a resonance that felt alive, like the heartbeat of a species refusing to bow. Its systems flowed in perfect harmony. Weapons arrays poised, shields calibrated, every function anticipating threats that had yet to arrive. This was not merely a ship, it was a statement, a living testament to centuries of endurance, ingenuity, and unyielding will. Across the void, the final Valkyr command fleet emerged. Super dreadnoughts bristling with armaments, carriers crisscrossed with swarming frigates, orbital batteries activated along planetary rings. They came as a tidal wave, a force designed to crush any spark of resistance in a single, decisive blow. Yet the Terran warship did not flinch. It did not retreat. It did not plead for mercy. It moved with calm inevitability, each maneuver a calculation honed over centuries. The first volleys erupted, massive energy beams tearing through the void, illuminating debris fields in violent brilliance. Yet the Terran ship absorbed, redirected, and struck back, not in fury, but in precise, surgical clarity. Shields harmonized with the energy, conduits redirected power, and weapons struck at the weak points no algorithm or strategy had ever accounted for. One by one, dreadnoughts faltered, frigates stalled, and carriers drifted helplessly, their formations unraveling under the weight of centuries of human foresight. Within the command chamber, the human at the helm moved with serene precision. Every adjustment, every pulse of energy, every tactical deployment was executed as though time itself had slowed. Holographic projections danced with the movements of the enemy, anticipating maneuvers before they were even attempted. Humanity did not merely react to the universe, it orchestrated it, bending the chaos of battle into patterns that ensured survival, victory, and dominance. The battle stretched across hours and days. Each exchange was a symphony of precision. Shields flared, weapons arced, drones infiltrated enemy systems, and fleets faltered beneath the weight of strategy they could neither anticipate nor counter. The galaxy, which had assumed humanity's silence was weakness, began to comprehend the truth. This was not desperation. This was inevitability. Finally, the last dreadnoughts drifted in silence. Engines dead, weapons offline, their once feared presence reduced to drifting metal. The Terran warship glided past without pause, a silent sentinel, its presence alone declaring the message humanity had carried for centuries: underestimate us at your peril. From the shadows of distant stars, colonies began to awaken, communications flickered to life, and scattered human enclaves began to reconnect. Humanity was not simply surviving, it was reclaiming its place in the galaxy, proving that intellect, endurance, and unyielding resolve were as deadly as any weapon. The human stepped back from the command dais, gazing across the expanse of debris, nebulae, and stars. The calm of the chamber contrasted with the chaos outside. A reflection of humanity itself, patient, observant, unyielding, and precise. Humanity had endured, humanity had returned, and humanity would never bow again. The Terran warship drifted forward, engines whispering like a heartbeat through the void. Across the galaxy, in silent recognition, the truth became undeniable. Humans had awakened, and the universe had been irrevocably changed, and in that quiet, infinite darkness, the stars themselves seemed to pause, bearing witness to a species that would no longer be forgotten.